In this video, we're going to be modeling our last chess piece, which is the knight, or as some of you may have called it while growing up, the horsey. All right, so this one is going to be the most complicated piece that we make out of all the chess pieces here, because this one actually kind of looks more like something we'd recognize in the natural world. The rest of these are just simple cylinders, and even the rook is just pretty simplistic. So let's begin by zooming in on the knight, and we're going to go ahead and maximize this viewport just because we want to see the detail a little bit better. So now that we have this here, the way we're going to do this is in a couple of parts. First off, we're going to be using a couple of objects, one of them to create the base down here. It's going to be more of a cylindrical shape, and it's going to feed into the horse right here and kind of blend in and then create the shape of the horse here. Again, this is going to be the most complicated part of this entire process. So let's just begin with the general stand for the knight. So I'm going to click right here. Why did I click there? I haven't even selected the line tool yet. That's what we're going to use, the line tool. So click the Shapes tab on the Create tab. So Create, Shapes, Splines. Then we have line right here. I'm going to click on that. Then I'm going to click right about the middle of the horse's base, the knight's base, whatever term you're going to call it. I'm going to bring it out to here. And we use kind of a straight edge for these parts of the base here. So we'll just continue using a straight edge. So we clicked there. And then once we get to right here, we'll click and drag to create some curvature. Again, click and drag. We don't need to be exact, which is something I say quite a bit while modeling. Click and drag a bit. I am going to hold the Alt button to bring the magnitude down a bit. I'm going to bring it here. Click and drag. Hold Alt, and then I'm going to move the angle in this direction and bring it to right about here. After that, I'm going to right click, and then we're going to do what we did with the pawn as far as making the base goes. So we're going to click on the modifier tab, then we're going to add the lathe modifier. So scroll down here, find lathe, and again, just like with the pawn, the axis is offset from where it needs to be. So we hit the arrow here, click on axis, and then we drag it to the right here. And if you'll notice, everything is super dark. It shouldn't be dark. So what's going on right here, I believe, is our inside is on the outside and our outside is on the inside. This is a reference to our normals. The normal is just basically the direction that a polygon is facing. So if I come over here and I click flip normals, there we go. Now it looks right. And again, this is just going to be serving as the base for our knight. We're going to be mounting the horse on top of this little platform right here. And you know what I just did? I just rotated the view I told you to never rotate. So let's put that back on front. And I'm going to bring this out of maximized view by clicking Restore Viewport. And right here, we're going to drag this down. Whoops. Still have the axis selected. There. Select Lathe on the modifier list. So now we can drag it down like that. So it's in line with everything else and we can see it a little bit better. And again, just like with the pawn and bishop, we have some z fighting going on because some of the vertices are some of the polygons are inverted. And so we're going to zoom in right here. I'm going to add the edit poly modifier, polygon selection. I'm going to click right there so I can see where our polygons actually are. That doesn't look right. You know what? That is a legitimate hole right there. All right. So let's click right there. That is not a legitimate hole. All right. That helps show us what our shape is. So if I zoom in right here and I click right here, well, that's still the base right there. So the hole is represented by these two circles right here. So I'm going to grab my select object tool. That way I don't accidentally move anything. I'm going to box select right there. And you're going to see nothing is selected up here at the top. But if I scroll around to the bottom, the entire base is selected. I hit delete. The base is gone. There's still a hole at the top. Let's cap the holes. So deselect polygon selection. Hit the arrow here and then find the cap holes modifier. And there we go. Holes capped there. Look at the base. Hole is capped. There we go. So that's the easy part of the knight. Next up, we're going to be using the line tool to kind of trace the knight here. And we're going to do this in segments. So the knight has a bit of a jawline that's going to appear right there. That jawline is going to be marking the border of one of our segments. This chest area here is going to be another segment. And we may do the main as well. We'll see. So we're going to click back on Create Objects. Again, we're going to be on the Shapes tab here, Splines, and we're going to be using the Line tool. So click this button right here, Maximize Viewport, just because we want to be able to see this as clearly as possible. And let's start with the horse's head. Now the mouth is open on this outline. I'm going to go ahead and trace it with that closed. We'll open it up after we get the general shape down, just simply because it'll make life a little bit easier to not be dealing with modeling it while it's open. Now right about here, we're going to hit where the main starts. So I'm going to click and drag that way. And for anybody who's never modeled or drawn a horse before, they're not easy. So let's go ahead and put that there. And I'm trying to do this by memory because this outline, of course, does not have the inner details of the horse. So right there, let's hold down the Alt button so we can drag it this way. And then we'll close our spline. Do we want to close the spline? Yes, we do. After that, let's go ahead and grab the Modify panel, the Modify tab, and let's bevel it. Let's go ahead and go to Restore Viewport, where we can see that once again it has drawn on that axis right there. Let's just drag it down this way a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with that right there. So the base of this is on the same line as the line that goes straight through the base of I'm sorry, we're just lining up the bottom of the bevel here with that. And so you know the bottom of the bevel is on the other side of this here, so it's right there. Now, with the bevel tool, bevel modifier still selected, I'm going to scroll down here, and level 1 is our start. We're going to add a level 2 bevel, bring the height up just a bit, bring the outline down, and that's going to round off the horse for us. Okay, so for the next step of this, we're going to go ahead and click back on the Create Object tab and start with another line. And this time we're going to start right down in here. I'm going to follow the curvature of that part of the horse's chest. Go up like that. I'm going ahead and induct this straight into the horse's head. And I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to click, let's say, right here. And this is where I start just kind of guessing where the curvature is supposed to be. So we're going to go to there. Going to come down here. We're probably going to adjust that line in a minute. But now that I've dragged it there, I'm going to hold down the Alt button. I'm going to come over here and come to right about here. Releasing the Alt button, and I'm going to click right here. So I know this is where the vertex is that I started with, because if you look down on the perspective viewport, you can actually see the vertex I'm moving around there and the vertex we started with. So if I click right there, it asks me if I want to close the spline. Yes, I do. After I've done that, I'm going to go back to the Modify tab. I'm going to add another bevel. And then just like before, I'm going to drag this down this way. Now we are going to make some tweaks to this thing in a moment, but we'll go ahead and leave the default settings there for now. Yeah. A couple more parts we're missing, the ears and the mane. Let's do the ears. Ears are going to be rather simple. And we don't need the spline tool for that one. We're going to go back to our geometry tool here. We're going to click on, let's go cone. Come right over here. Draw a little bit of a shape right there. Oh well. We'll fix the radiuses in a moment. So first you draw the circle, then you set the height, and then you set the other radius like that. We're going to change all those values, but getting it created first is the important part. So let's drag this up here. And because of how I made the cone, the tip is going to be the pivot point. So I'm going to drag it to where the ear is here, and then just kind of rotate it around like this. And let's move it into place there. All right. You know what? Before I do the rotation, I want to do something else first. I'm going to go to the modifier tab. Then I'm going to go on the modifier list, and I'm going to find one that I use for quite a bit of things called bend. Now what bend is going to do is it's going to take our shape and it's going to do exactly what the name says, bend it. So the angle is going to determine how much of a bend there is, and the direction is going to determine what direction the bend is coming from. So my direction that I want is going to be 90. The angle is not going to be anywhere near that much because that's going to make it look like a horn. I'm just going to bend it just a slight amount. We could have done that with soft selection, but I wanted to do it with this. I want to do something else with soft selection. So now I'm going to grab the rotate tool, rotate it around so the base is over there, rotate it outward just a bit, inward. Grab the move tool, and I think I need to drag it out this way just a bit. Let's say right there. Those of you who have horses, I apologize for butchering what's probably your favorite animal. Coming back to cone, our first radius, let's go ahead and extend that out a bit. Second radius, we'll put it there. That should work. Now, we're going to click back on bend. So we're at the top of the modifier stack, and we're going to go to Edit Poly. There we go. Vertex selection. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right up these vertices right there. Pull back out a little bit. Scroll down and find soft selection. We use soft selection a lot. Click use soft selection. Drop the fall off all the way down to, let's say, right about there. So we got the purple vertices along the outside. We're just grabbing these vertices here, and then we're going to pull them into the air. There we go. And let's go ahead and grab that one and drop the drop the fall off down a little bit further. Again, this is not going to be the best horse you've ever seen modeled, unless it happens to be the only horse you ever see modeled, at which point I do apologize. So deselect use soft selection. I'm going to grab these vertices here. They're still sticking out. I don't want them sticking out. I actually want these vertices to go into the horse's head. So I'm just going to drag them that way. A little bit more. And it's going to look a little wonky at first. But once we union everything together, I'm hoping everything will work out for us. Here's to hoping. All right, so we've got this part here, we've got that, and we've got that. What we don't have is the mane. I'm just going to save that for last. And also, the horse had its mouth open in the, in the outline. We can go ahead and do that, but let's give the horse a bit more shape before we go forward. All right, so we're going to add a third level of bevel to the main body of the horse. A little bit of height. Drop the outline down. The height was way too much. Sorry about that. So let's go right there. And hopefully everything will be fine. I'm going to grab the scaling tool now and add the edit poly modifier to this. Polygon selection, grabbing this top one here, scaling it down a bit. This is going to pull this lower part away from the head. I'm going to move it down further. One of the downsides of this method that we did for the beveling is this isn't quite a true polygon here. This is not a convex shape. This is a concave shape. That's going to make our life a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Anyways, let's do vertex selection. And let's hide all of these things that are not the night. Well, wait, these are the night. All of these things that are not the night. So typically speaking, the base of the night is going to kind of stretch out to over here. So let's make that happen. I'm going to change default shading on this front viewport here to wireframe overrides. That way I can see the base a little bit better. And I'm going to select these vertices right along through here. Actually, you know what? Let's just select these two for now. Scrolling down, I'm going to find soft selection again. Use soft selection. I'm going to drop my fall off down considerably. Let's say right about there. Grab my scaling tool, and I'm only going to scale along the y-axis. So it's providing a bit of thickness down here at the bottom. It does come off of it a little bit, but I think we'll be okay there. Ignore the fact that it's flat on this side. Next thing I want to do is grab right up here. And this is a little bit too thick up here, so let's scale the y-axis in here so that way the jawline becomes visible again. There. Maybe a touch more. That should work. Now the downside to what I've been doing here is all these vertices right over here, they've also gone in a bit. We will realign them in just a moment. So polygon selection, we're going to select this polygon right here, which again, not technically a polygon because it is not convex. I'm going to grab the Weiss, then, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to turn off soft selection. So I'm going to scroll down here, turn off soft selection, and then I'm going to scale on the y-axis only, and you'll see if I just keep going this way, it flattens that edge right there. So there we go. That's back to flat like it should have been. So there we have that much of the horse. The mane is still pretty much non-existent. The horse's mouth is still not open. So we're going to do a couple more steps on here. Let's turn on the plane again and turn off the horse's head so we can see where the mouth is. So it looks like the mouth is right there. Wrong one. Yeah. So it ended up being notched out right there. We may not do the mouth. Let's see how the rest of it looks first. All right, so now our next step is going to be turning off Edit Poly on this. We are going to just one more look around, see if I like the way it's looking there. That'll work. Let's see here. If I look over here, I can see that the head is a little bit further this way than the body. We'll deal with that. Okay, so I'm going to use the head as a root for a compound object. Once again, we're going to click on the Create tab. We're on Geometry, and we want to go to Compound Objects and select Boolean. Once we do that, we're going to click Add Operands. We're going to add our ear, and we're going to add our horse's body. So now this is all one solid shape there. See the jawline there, see the ears are connected, it's all there. I'm going to turn off Add Operands. And then we are going to come up here to the Modifier tab and add the Symmetry modifier like we did with the cross on the king's crown. Where is Symmetry? Here it is. And the default axis that it chose was a z-axis, which works out for us because you can see both sides of the horse now exist. Now the horse's mouth is a little wide. We're going to fix that. Beyond that, I'm actually kind of liking how it's coming along. I expected this to go so much worse. So we're going to add the Edit Poly modifier. Once again, vertex selection. Let's just go ahead and box select this. Well, box selection is probably a bad choice. Let's just select one vertex right there at the tip of the mouth. Then we're going to scroll down, find soft selection, turn it back on. The fall off is going way too far. We just want it going up to probably right about here. Again, those of you who have horses, I do apologize. I don't see horses on a regular basis, so my concept of what a horse looks like is a little garbage. So we don't want any of these vertices down here highlighted. We only have these right here. I'm going to do scaling. And then we're going to go on the y-axis right here. Scale it together a bit. Deselect vertex selection. And the mouth isn't so oddly wide now. But we do have something weird going on right here. That might cause us some problems. And the reason that's happening is because this polygon right here, again, not an actual polygon, is folding funny on us. Now, a couple of solutions we can do for this. And the one that I think I'm going to do is with it selected, I'm going to, let's try tessellate first. Tessellate was a very bad choice on my part. Yeah, either way, it's a bad choice. All right, next option. Ooh, you know what we can do? So we're going to undo a lot, all the way till it's no longer scaled. Then we're going to select this polygon right here, and we're going to scroll down. I don't think retriangulate is going to do anything I want. Of course not. Keep scrolling. We're looking for slice. All right, here's our slice plane. Yeah, that's the one I want to use. So I've got the slice plane selected. This yellow box marks where it wants to slice the polygon. I'm going to grab the rotate tool. because I don't need the polygon sliced along its normal existence. What I need is for this to cut my polygon across that way, maybe across that way. Basically, I just want to create a bunch of extra polygons here that don't necessarily change the actual shape of the horse's head. So now with this red line where I want it, I'm going to click slice right here. And you can't really see anything that's happened at the moment, but if I grab my move tool and move the slice plane, you see that there's now a line there. That's because the vertices are now, the polygons are now divided there. Let's go ahead and slice right there. And right there. And I'm going to rotate this. Yeah, let's go with that angle right there. And for anybody wondering if I have any particular rhyme or reason for how I'm slicing it, mostly the answer to your question is, it feels right. Whoops. Maybe completely wrong. But we'll see soon enough. All right, slice plane is turned off now. So now when I come up here to vertex selection, I click the very tip of the nose there. And we see we have vertices now inside of the polygon here. So now drag down to soft selection. Huh. Is that the same value? Okay. And then we're going to pull this in there. And you'll see we don't get that weird folding anymore. And the reason we don't, we almost don't get the weird folding. A little bit of weird folding right there, but I think it's not noticeable enough that I'm not going to care that it's there. The rest of it, though, is gone, the really extreme stuff, because by adding these different slices here, adding these vertices, we've basically given the model more control points to determine how this non-polygon polygon should be folding. I feel like it should be a little bit thinner. I'll just leave it like that. All right, turning off vertex selection. There's that much of our knight now. Next up, I want to do the mane. So polygon selection, make sure soft selection is off. And this one's going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to do a box selection like that. And down here towards the bottom, I want to make sure that none of these bottom polygons got selected as well. So we're only dealing with this set of polygons right there. Now I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to click on bevel because I use bevel for everything. I'm going to give it some height. And right now it's being done by group normals. Group normals is not the best choice for this one. We're going to go for local normals instead. So that way the hair is coming up and going away from the body, following the contour of the body. That might be a little tall. So let's reduce the height a bit. I think that should be fine. So we hit the checkbox right there. So now our knight looks like that. Ooh. A little bit of breaking right here. That's happening because of how we did things here. We can fix that. So scrolling in here, polygon there, polygon there, polygon there. Yeah, that's ugly. Okay. So I'm going to grab these two right here. I'm going to grab the move tool. Yikes. Okay. Now I understand what's happening. So instead of polygon selection, I'm going to grab vertex selection, and I'm going to simplify the geometry of this model here. So I've got these two vertices right here. If I drag around, there's this vertex right here. Whoops. Yeah. That's on the inside. Yay. So let's start with this. Whoops. So this edit poly, I'm going to trash it. I'm going to re-add the edit poly to it. Polygon selection. Problem happens with this area right here. So if the problem happens with this area right here, let's punch some holes in it. So all of that's selected. I'm going to hit the delete button. We now have holes there. I'm going to grab the vertex selection. And if I click right here, shows a hole there, right? Yep, because that's the other side right there. So we're going to select that vertex, that vertex, that vertex, that vertex, that vertex. And then we're going to come down here and collapse all of them. And we're going to select that vertex right there. We're going to hit collapse. And yay, it's moved out on that side. Which means we get to repeat the same process on the other side now. So rotate around. All the vertices that are on this little triangle right here, we're going to select. Then we're going to collapse them. Then we're going to collapse that. So now we've got a nicer little hole there that once we cap it, we should be able to add our bevel for the main without it messing everything up. So add an end poly modifier, polygon selection. Once again, we're going to go to right there. It's about right. Again, horse lovers, I do apologize. Then we're going to hit the bevel tool. And again, local normals is what we want. Let's increase the height. Not that far. Let's try 0.5. I think 0.5 will work. So there's our horse's mane. Note, the weirdness is gone, mostly. And I accidentally deleted the fix I did to that. Okay, so re-adding the fix I had on there is again going to be relatively simple. We're just going to scroll all the way down here. We're going to find our slice plane, and we've got it poly currently selected, polygon selection. Slice plane is there. Grab the rotate tool once again. Rotate it around so that the line is properly going on this object right here. Let's give it some angles. Move it. Slice. 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 Rotate it back the other way. If I remember right, we sliced right there. Right there. And I'm pretty sure we did another slice back here. Turn off the slice plane. Come back up to the top and do vertex selection. Select one of the tip vertices on the mouth. Soft selection. Reduce the fall off so that only the mouth is being affected. Right there. Scaling tool along this axis right here. Turn off vertex selection. And if we wanted to, we could say our knight is done. Well, not yet. Just the general shape. Or we could cut out the notch. I kind of want to see the way both things go. So let's find out. So I'm going to go to Create Object. I'm going to go to Extended Primitives, and I'm going to grab a chamfer box. A chamfer box is just like any other box, except it can have rounded corners. So I'm dragging it right there. And just like the bishop, I'm paying attention down in this viewport right here to see how tall it is. And the second click is going to set the fillet, which is how rounded the corners are. So I'm going to now drag this up to where the horse's mouth should be, somewhere around about there, I think. Yeah, that looks about right to me. You can see it's got a rounded edge. And so we don't break stuff we don't want to break. I'm going to select the horse's head. And I'm going to duplicate it, or clone it. Make a copy of it. H head backup. Hit OK. And I'm going to hit the eyeball just so it's not there anymore. Line 3 right here is the horse's head. So now I'm going to go to the compound objects, Boolean, and let's see if this breaks everything. Click Add Operands, select the base, and select this little thing right here. Deselect Add Operands, move over to Modify, and where it says chamfer box right here, we're going to scroll down and select Subtract. So notch is pulled out of the horse's mouth there. It doesn't look too bad. I think we'll roll with that. So let's go ahead and name this Knight. I'm going to turn off everything that's not a chess piece and turn all the chess pieces back on. So there's a king, queen, bishop, knight, rook, and pawn. So always make sure to save your work on a regular basis just by clicking File and then clicking Save. And given the amount of trouble I've had in making this knight, I am definitely making sure to save.